So things are getting very interesting in the Warhammer 40K universe, and this particular one is very interesting because it's essentially a little bit of a civil war going on between someone who initially worked on the lore back in 2008 when they left Games Workshop and obviously Games Workshop. So as you guys are aware, Games Workshop made the Adeptus Custodes have the ability to be females. That is a major contradiction to an established lore that's been around for decades. And then they try to gaslight fans by telling them, well, they were always able to be females, right? You just didn't notice any. That is a massive gaslight. And people called them out for the nonsense. And as much as I love the amount of people that comment on my Warhammer 40K videos, whether you like me or whether you don't like me, it doesn't matter. I think this will be a very interesting video to talk about because apparently Warhammer 40K now has a new encyclopedia, an ultimate guide made from that person who now states the opposite of what Games Workshop is stating.
I should like. What did you just touch?
Apologies, brother. I need to get deeper.
Are you a pervert?
What?
Do not touch me there. Do not touch that cable.
Ancient one, calm yourself.
No.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Gav Thorpe, the person who initially worked on Warhammer 40K and the initial lore, the whole lore that started all of this to begin with, he has worked on it and left Games Workshop back in 2008, if I'm not mistaken. And Gav Thorpe is one of the people who made this Ultimate Edition encyclopedia. And the wording in here is very, very much reminiscent to the actual lore, which is a brotherhood of Adeptus Custodes, right? They don't mention the more inclusive language that Games Workshop is trying to use lately. They use the brotherhood language. They use the very clear, very masculine language to describe the Adeptus Custodes. Games Workshop is probably not going to like that. So let's get into this article, guys, from Fandom Pulse. But of course, before we do, if you are new here, just consider hitting that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it and like the video to push us out into that YouTube algorithm. Now, keep in mind one thing. I don't know and I don't believe that this Ultimate Guide has been considered canon just yet, okay? It's not officially from Games Workshop, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later in the video, but as of right now, it's not official canon. I just find it interesting because the person who's on this book is one of the people that worked on the initial lore for Warhammer 40K. So it says Warhammer 40K has a new history book by one of the original designers that walked back the female Adeptus Custodes, which was introduced by Games Workshop in their 10th edition codex. Now, we already went over this whole thing about how they try to gaslight fans, about how there was always female Adeptus Custodes, and people melted down and fought. Look at this thing, it has 2 million views. Probably had way more than that after the screenshot was taken. So we already went over all that. We don't have to rehash it. If you want to talk about that, check out some of my older videos. But now apparently there's a new Warhammer 40K, the Ultimate Guide Encyclopedia, which has been released by the original designers Gav Thorpe and Guy Hale. I completely forgot about Guy Hale. I was so focused on Gav Thorpe. That contradicts the new Games Workshop push towards feminization. First off, badass cover. Oh, it doesn't get any bigger. That sucks. Badass cover. I fucking love the way the Warhammer 40K covers look. I mean, they're so amazing. Now, the 10th edition codex renamed the Adeptus Custodes a gathering to try to remove the gendered word brotherhood, which was in the original setting. This new Ultimate Guide walks that language back by reinserting the original intent of the lore. This is fantastic. And again, even if it's not canon, it's fantastic because it goes to show that the people who originally worked on the lore, which was Gav Thorpe and Guy Hale, it goes to show that they're not down for this shit, right? It goes to show that even they acknowledge that the Adeptus Custodes never had females in their brotherhood. This is why they called it a brotherhood, right? They didn't call it a gathering like the new Games Workshop thing does, where they try to make it all so inclusive. It's so absolutely stupid. In a section about the Adeptus Custodes titled The Guardians of the Emperor, the book says, as a legion of individuals, the Adeptus Custodes are less regimented than other imperial forces, with promotion based entirely on merit. The captain general leads, aided by a group of 10 tributes. Below the tribunate, commanders of individual forces are known as shield captains. Armies or shield hosts are formed across all 5 orders. Dozens of other sub-organizations, brotherhoods, and groupings run through the orders, such as the Companions, Wardens, Shadowkeepers, or Solar Watch. Some are entirely ceremonial. Others have genuine military application, while many simply exist to acknowledge the talent or deeds of their members. In this way, the custodians keep their true structure impenetrable. I would really love to know, and this goes for people that don't like me and goes for people that do like me, right? Regardless of whether you like me or not, you gotta admit, this is pretty fucking interesting, right? To see the fact that this new book is using the old language, I find that to be extremely interesting, considering how when companies usually go down the DEI rabbit hole, they try to erase their entire history, right? They usually do anyway. They try to erase their whole history and try to gaslight you and tell you, well, it was always there. We were always like that. We were always doing that. What do you mean we're not? We never did that before. What do you mean? There was totally female Adeptus Custodes. And when you ask them for proof of any kind of proof whatsoever, they're like, just believe us. Just believe us. There was totally, like, please just believe us. There was totally female Adeptus Custodes, right? Like, they completely gaslight you. So I find it interesting that this new book is allowed to come out. Now, again, keep in mind, it has no actual affiliation with Games Workshop to that extent. And we'll go into it a little bit deeper. But I would love for you guys to leave comments on this video and let me know, as lore experts of Warhammer 40K, what do you think about this? Again, whether you like me or whether you don't like me, take that out of it. I genuinely want to know what you think about this, because I find it interesting to see two people who initially worked on the lore back in the day, to see them using old language like this and not acknowledging the new stuff makes it very curious to me. Of note is the reinsertion of the language of brotherhood in the passage and the lack of using gatherings. Of note is famed designer Gav Thorpe, who worked on the original lore, but left Games Workshop in 2008, according to his Wikipedia. This news delighted fans of Warhammer 40K, as they noted that the original lore designer seemed to be completely ignoring the Games Workshop change to the lore to allow the female Custodes to exist. However, the book itself is not published by Games Workshop, but is licensed out to a publishing company called DK, as listed in the Amazon description and on the cover. So its official canon has not been determined. Whether Games Workshop will walk it back with their new female custodians or to try to go forward with their new lore in the Warhammer 40K remains to be seen. I'm going to say it like this. I don't think they're walking it back at all. I can't imagine that we are going to see Games Workshop admit that that was a mistake. I just can't. I'm sorry. Whenever I see a company do some stuff like this, there's no way they're going to be like, oh, yeah, well, that was a mistake. We're going to completely ignore that statement and pretend like that never happened. Although, to be fair, that's how they treated the lore, so maybe they will do that. But I just don't. Let's be real. I do not see them walking this back and saying that what they said about the female Custodes was a mistake. They're going to double down. Games Workshop's going to double down. They probably will not acknowledge this as canon. I don't know what their history is with Guy and Gav. I don't know what their history is in terms of anything else they might have worked on that was recognized as canon, but I don't see them recognizing this as canon. And if they do, they're probably going to ask for an alteration of some kind if the books are not out yet already, but it seems like they are out. So I don't see how they can alter them. And I'm sure it's going to lead to an ideological showdown on Twitter, YouTube, and everywhere else, where we get all the hate comments that we usually get from Warhammer videos, which I love so much. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching these videos. I hope you did enjoy it. If you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video, comment, let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.